Hello, everyone. I am meteorologist Hutch Johnson. Here we go again. Another storm system out in the Pacific will bring some significant and serious snowfall to the mountains of the West. We're talking California northward into Oregon, and we're also expecting that to spread its way into the central and northern Rocky Mountains. Meanwhile, on the East Coast, as we went through the early part of our week, a storm system slammed those areas with over a foot of snow. We'll have a look at the reports there. But first, let's take a look at what we have going on that radar right now as we head into our Tuesday evening. We have an exiting storm system out of Winnipeg working its way through southern Canada. And there's the one heading out through Nova Scotia, out toward the northeastern and northern Atlantic now, that has exited places like New York State, Pennsylvania, as well as Boston, dumping over a foot of snow. We'll have more on that. A host of watches, warnings, and advisories on the West Coast as we go through. For the next system that is about to take hold, we'll zoom in and show you these yellow areas here. We're talking about the areas in and around West Yellowstone for both Montana as well as Wyoming, the Jackson, Wyoming area, all expecting some significant snow. That is a winter storm watch. The purple counties that you see in the mountains of western Montana, all the way through most of Idaho here, a winter weather advisory. But the big snow is expected outside in Oregon, central Oregon, where we have the elevated terrain of the mountains, and then also California, where feet of snow will be possible above 6,000 to 7,000 feet once again, on top of the feet of snow that went and took place earlier. Now, as we take a look, some of these folks have had in 7 days close to 100 inches of snow, and we're going to add in some of those places 24 inches or more. I appreciate you watching. Thanks for tuning in here to Hutch's Weather. Make sure you give the video a like if you like what we're going over here, and let's take a look at some of the contents here. Love to have your subscriptions as well. And again, let me know where you're watching from. I love to see where the audience is. If you have a question, throw that in there as well. All right, check out the mountains of California here, the reds we see there outside of Reno and that Truckee Pass area. Boy, I got to tell you what, we're expecting snowfall in excess of 12 inches for many, and that's only at around 5,000 feet or so. But above that, we're talking about upwards of 2 feet of snow, and this is forecast by the National Weather Service out there in the mountains of California. Outside Lake Tahoe, they've had some serious flaky goodness out there. Here's a look at what they're saying on their neck of the woods. What? Heavy snow, 2 feet above 6,000 feet in terrain. Can do, North Dakota. Rebecca, good to have you on board as well. I got to tell you, thanks so very much for joining me here on Hutch's Weather. And again, now let's take a look elsewhere. As we go into the mountains outside of, say, Bend, Oregon. Oh my goodness, there are some serious snowfall potential from the models. And we're going to go over the models here in a minute, and we're going to track the storm as well for your planning purposes. This warning is in effect from the wee hours of the morning on your Valentine's Day, and that weather's going to be less than lovely. I can guarantee you that, and it lasts all the way till 4 in the morning as we go into Friday. So it's a long-lived event there with those winds doing what we call upslope flow, and the mountains just catch all of that moisture that's in the air coming off the Pacific, and that rising motion as the air traverses up the terrain really enhances the snowfall potential. This heads all the way north outside near Mount St. Helens, and we do have the Portland area that is expected to pick up some serious snow from this system. So again, this storm system is expected to hit out in the west. Let's take a look at the satellite imagery and what this storm system looks like right now as we pop this up for you here. A look again from the west coast. This is visible satellite imagery here, and you can actually take a look. Well, let me load that up for you. Here it is. You can see the storm brewing out here well over the Pacific, and that flow, that onshore flow of moisture is set to return. We have some high clouds streaming over the Rockies now. And by the way, this area of white that you see here on the ground that's not moving, that is snow on the ground. Snow in northern portions of Arizona, much of central Utah, and outside of, well, the Big Lake and Salt Lake area. And a lot of snow on the ground in the northern Rockies of Idaho and Montana as well, with more unsettled wintry weather heading its way into our neighbors in the Pacific Northwest. Now, we're going to take a look at one large scale model and a more high scale model here that will really pin down some of the mountain peaks. But first, let's take a look at this American model that will highlight some of the track of this storm as we go through. Here we go. We're letting this load up right now and go. All right, this model shows this storm system working its way through with pronounced storms continuing to make landfall in the western United States. Look at this, storm after storm, wave after wave, making landfall along the west coast over the next 14 days. Let's start with this one, shall we? As we go ahead and back this up here. Now let's take this into tonight. We saw the clouds on the satellite image just moments ago outside of Eureka, California. That system works its way in with a huge batch of moisture. And as that moist flow works its way up the elevated terrain outside of Truckee, Carson City, Nevada, all the way up into the mountains of the Pacific Northwest in Idaho, we'll see that wringing moisture out of this very fast moving system. So that'll be round one of snow. And that takes place, as the timestamp shows you, as we head through the very early hours of your 15th. And that would be, well, after Valentine's Day here. Now, as we continue on, that system very quickly works its way into the mountains of Wyoming, where we'll see heavy snow, Salt Lake City, Ogden, Utah, Logan, Utah, all the way up into Jackson, Wyoming. Now, this will also impact the Yellowstone National Park area. What's interesting about this storm, I'm getting you a bigger view here, is where it goes afterwards. Notice it slides over the Rockies, out of Billings, through Sioux Falls, and there's one wave of it making its way very swiftly into the Ohio River Valley as we head into your day, and that's on the 16th. So that means as we head into the late week on Friday, you could expect a wintry mix potentially through the areas of the Ohio River Valley and, of course, the Mississippi River Valley as well. Here comes the next wave of weather that makes its way on from the Pacific, and it does look like it will bring yet at least another couple of waves of wintry weather. So that's a look at that particular model. Let's take a fast look at a higher resolution model. And as I load up this one for you, I want to let you know that these high resolution models can sometimes show, particularly in time frames that are 24 hours out or more, details that don't necessarily pan out. So as a meteorologist, it's always important to say, take some of these modeled forecasts with a grain of salt. What the high resolution models do a favor of is they can take into account some of the fine details of the terrain and the mountain peaks, whereas the larger scale models do not. So you can actually see, as I go back and forth in time here, as this storm system makes landfall off the coast of California, Northern California, San Francisco, and points north primarily, and heads in towards Reno, you can actually see the places that pick up the abundant snow. We're talking about the I-80 pass across the mountains there near Truckee, and you're also talking about those northern portions of the Santa Anas as we head in towards Caribou, and also areas outside Carson City. Now, the Yosemite National Park area is not going to be without snow as well, as you picked up some snow. Now, take a look as we bend Oregon around here, this storm system. It throws moisture up from Northern California, almost due north, right? So it's going to make its way, and this provides what's called an upslope flow on the east-facing sides of the Rocky Mountains. So in Bend, Oregon, you're going to get slammed with that easterly flow, and that is also going to provide some significant moisture there. That system works its way out and into the Rockies of Wyoming. Now, how much snow, you say? Let's take a peek at that, shall we, as we head into the model's rendition of snowfall intensity. We'll use a 10-to-1 ratio here for this. And one thing that's kind of cool, I'm going to put this in 3D and we're going to bend the earth back here before we look at some measurements along the East Coast. Making sure that I have this on the last frame of the 48-hour run here. This takes us all the way into the 15th is all. So we're talking literally about Thursday, late in the day, 8 p.m. at night. And you can see in the mountains outside of Reno, Nevada, you can actually see where the peak of the snowfall is, with the tall spikes being the areas with the most snow. So those are the mountain peaks. Obviously, over 6,000 feet will have the better chance at seeing some lofty snow. I'll put this back in 2D mode and I will show you some of the modeled snowfall amounts here. This does not mean that this is exactly what's going to happen there. I would rely more on what your National Weather Service office is saying in Jackson, Wyoming, and also in Montana, as well as the West Coast. But you can certainly see that this is showing some, well, peaks showing up there when we get into the mountain peaks, because that is where we have that enhanced lift with these particular storms. Okay, back to this we go. We're going to go take a look at the measured snowfall amounts that we will see in these areas, or at least likely see. Now let's get in closer and talk about Oregon and portions of southern Washington state here, where we are expecting upwards of 6 inches to a foot of snow outside of Yakima here in the mountains. We could see a pocket or two that get over 18 inches of snow or thereabouts. So keep that in mind as you're traveling through that area as we head toward the midweek day on Valentine's Day. Looks less than lovely, but there is a chance of, look at this. Out there near the Hood River, models are indicating over 2 feet of snow in some places. It's popping a 33 to 35 inch snow total there in a few places, even over 40 inches. But again, that's yet to be determined whether we're going to get that much out of it. It is a very wet system. Look at this outside of Sisters. We're talking about snowfall amounts there. The model is really peaking these out at upwards of 70 to 80 inches of snow. Not uncommon when we get into some of these elevated terrain areas. Now we're looking in on that Crater Lake National Park, and it too is showing a big old bullseye up there of over 50 inches of snow. Kind of fun to look at these models, but again, I warn you to take these with a grain of salt. Getting into Northern California and the mountains outside of Reno and the Truckee area, 1 to 2 feet of snow, but there are some peaks here that could see upwards of 40 inches of snow according to this model run. How about the good old ski areas, southern parts of Wyoming as we go in towards the Steamboat Springs area in Colorado, picking up a foot to maybe 2 feet of snow in some places, maybe more. And how about outside Estes Park as you look in the western Rockies and the foothills just outside of Boulder? The Flatirons pick it up maybe upwards of, wow, say a solid foot of snow potentially as you go out towards Nederland out there. So keep that in mind. Steamboat Springs picking up some good ski-worthy snow. And as we look into the mountains of Wyoming near Jackson, again, the peaks could have a chance at over a foot, maybe 2 feet of snow there. That is a look across the nation with this upcoming storm. By the way, we have a system working its way through the South Dakota area towards Minneapolis that could deliver in some areas a good 6 inches of snow in spots with some wind as well. That's going to impact travel right along the Interstate 90 corridor. And this is the exiting system that hit on this Tuesday across the East Coast. So what we're going to do right now is take a look at the snowfall reports that, well, really were reported today. And it's just unbelievable the number of people that were impacted by this system once it made its way and tapped into some of that warm Atlantic water and moisture. So here's some snow reports from across our great nation today. And where you see the highlighted orange colors, that's where we had the majority of the snowfall reports that worked their way through the region today. Again, thanks, Nathan, for joining. Keith, good to have you on from Tucson, Arizona. Lovely to see you on board. I hope you're enjoying the weather out there. Zooming in, we can see that over the last 24 hours, the majority of the highlighted snow taking place in Pennsylvania, particularly the eastern third of Pennsylvania, where you see the yellow to orange dots. Those are over 8 inches of snow there, and some upwards of 18. Now you can see the tabulated form on the right side with the big winner in this particular map view. Over 15 inches reported in that Farmington, Connecticut area, West Hartford, Connecticut, 15.2 inches. Sussex, New Jersey, and Shahola, Pennsylvania, 15 inches of flaky goodness. Now that there is more than shovel trouble. That there is what we would call snowblower material. And it's a wet, heavy, thick, just, I guess we call it heart attack snow here in the Northern Plains. It just isn't fun to move. Hazleton, Pennsylvania, 13.4 inches as well. Now you get into the Boston area here as we move into parts of Massachusetts and out toward the, let me get up into Massachusetts. Here we go. Connecticut, Massachusetts. Some of those areas picking up healthy amounts of snow as well. Again, we did see numerous reports of over a foot of snow along the eastern seaboard. So that's a look at that system and today's snowfall that is working its way into parts of northern, southern Winnipeg, I should say, and in along Winnipeg is working its way through southern Canada. So that's a look at the nation's weather. Here we go again, indeed, with another round of wintry weather heading its way into the West Coast. And models are indicating that we could have very stormy weather along the west coast of the United States the next few days. I'll keep you posted right here on Hutch's Weather. Once again, a little bit about me. Thanks for watching. I'm a meteorologist with 27 years of on-air broadcasting experience in meteorology. I've also spent the better part of 22 years teaching meteorology in the classroom, and also have had a little bit of experience with my friends at NOAA Laboratories in Boulder, Colorado, doing some research meteorology. Hi to everybody. Thanks for liking my videos. And again, thanks for following Hutch's Weather right here